If you're still dancing like this or like that, chances are that you had the time of your life in the 80s. And as an audiophile music lover, things were really kicking off. Behold, folks, the Stack. The coolest thing a teenager could have in 1985, right after a Commodore 64 and maybe a lava lamp. This system here just screams neon colors, big hair, spandex, MTV, Walkman, arcade games, Rubik cubes, and of course, not to forget, aerobics and yuppies and massive record stores. Yep, and of course, minimum a colorful head sweatband like this. This is 80s hi-fi caught in the crossfire of analog and digital during a time of huge technical advancements from the Japanese brand Denon. I'll be playing it like it's 1985 and exploring whether 40-year-old quality hi-fi components still deserves attention today. To me, it's a perfect chance to reminisce over the audiophile struggle back in the day. Something you might remember like this.
It began when I figured it was possible to get a tape to sound as good as my records. I started with a simple system, but that tape didn't sound as good as a record. Finally, I built a spectrum analyzer and found that my sound didn't even look as good as my records. I was still adding to it when I heard the sound that had been eluding me.
Ampex, the sound you've been looking for.
Okay, maybe that's more like the late 70s, but you get the idea, right? We also do some critical sound comparisons, so throw on your headphones and nerd out here with me. Of course, we'll revisit some iconic 80s pop culture too. Sounds great? Then you're in the right place. Oh, and try to enjoy this in real time, just like we did in the 80s. If you're new here, subscribe and follow the series and check out the other great content on the channel. You can support the honest reviews on Patreon, where you get access to full-length, uncensored listening sessions and much more. You'll find everything Stjernholm Reviews on the link tree in the video description below this video. Remember the music of the 80s? I was a teenager in the 80s, on the edge of the digital revolution. And the music gear to play it well was rapidly changing. Denon's catalogs, which I found here in German, reflected this transition with products like the DCD 1700 CD player here, showcasing great improvements in early digital tech, while the PRA 1500 preamp and the MXM33HX cassette deck here stayed firmly in the analog world. Anyone serious about music back then had a full-size stack of components to do what we can do now with a simple streaming device. Here, I revisit what it took to make playlists, which before 1988 actually meant recording mixes to tape, and fine-tune FM radios, and optimize cassette recordings for that high-quality analog sound. Back then, the source really mattered. Things like vinyl wear and FM noise made things challenging. Today, even modest streamers can deliver satisfying sound effortlessly. But is it as fun without the struggle, I wonder? Where's the therapy of taking your time gone? I divided the series into 3 parts. Part 1, where I'll present the system here, walk through the components and the key struggles and features and such. In episode 2, I'll explore the features in action and really nerd out on them. Finally, in episode 3, we will be listening much more to cassette decks, to the difference between an 80s DAC and a modern DAC. We will be listening to the amps and so on. To put this entire system together, it took the combined effort of the used gear market and a very kind vintage hi-fi reseller, This equipment was loaned to us by HiFiScandinavia.dk. Worldwide shipping. Thank you, guys. That sent us this wonderful DE70 graphical equalizer that is really hard to find. As a teenager in the 80s, I was captivated by the magic of music and the technology that brought it to life at home. I was a music electronics nerd, but being an audiophile was actually out of reach. Premium hi-fi like this was insanely expensive compared to my paper route income. And that's why I became a DJ. Yeah, not to earn money, but to finance buying records and gear. A pair of these cost the equivalent of almost 6,000 euros today. But a guy could dream, right? Denon wasn't big on speakers at the time, only offering the Yamaha NS1000 style SC99 speakers, which I really couldn't find in working condition on the market. To represent, we have these little Dali speakers here, the Dali 2 from 1985, just to represent the period speakers here in the image. We will be using the SBR1 speakers, the big daddies here, as near-field monitors when we listen for all the little differences. Now, let me walk you through all the components assembled for the series to give you a full overview. The POA 4400A power amplifiers. The 4400A was actually the second generation of the iconic monoblocks, now featuring optical Class A. The monoblock design, high output and the floor placement philosophy kind of set them apart from the average amplifiers on the market at the time. The evolution from the POA 4400 brought performance enhancements, keeping these amps relevant and respected. The legacy of the POA 4400 series continues to be appreciated by audiophiles who value the engineering and thoughtful design that Denon actually put into these icons. The ones I found here were purchased new in 1986 and have been in use ever since with no restoration. I just had them checked recently and adjusted, and all the components are original, so I say that is a thumbs up for the quality there. The amps are equipped with the A and B speaker outputs as well as variable input level adjustment, so they can be perfectly matched with any preamp. In the back we find balanced and single-ended inputs and trigger inputs for automatic on-off using a pretty unique 2-pin connector looking like this. You'll find the typical speaker connectors of the time that only accept extremely slim wire, so I had to make some adapters for banana plugs to make them easier to work with. These terminals just really sucks. The power cable is also fixed to the unit, typical for the time, which remind us that the super expensive power cables that we are being pushed on today might actually not improve sound enough to be even on the radar of the engineers of 1985. My initial impression is that it's a lovely and rather warm sound emitting from these amps compared to today's standards. It really suits the thinner, sheeny sound of the 80s pretty well. For preamp duties, we have the PRA 1500 here. At the time, Denon was in the midst of the digital transition, offering this PRA 1500 purely analog preamplifier alongside two cutting-edge digital models, the DAP 2500 and DAP 5500. Since we'll hear DACs from the era via the CD player here, I thought it would be much more fun to go with the analog preamp. This one features variable loudness compensation, a selectable subsonic filter, and even tone controls. Around the back we got a pair of balanced outputs, perfect for those monoblocks placed further away near the speakers. There's also something called Super Bass, a mono output intended for a subwoofer. What? Cool! Additionally, we are blessed with extensive tape monitoring features we use here for the graphic equalizer, a MM and MC phono stage, and even a remote that supports control of many of the components directly. Cool! And behold, friends, It might be the rarest of them all here, the highly sought-after DP70 equalizer. It's a beast of a tool that at the time became less desirable for some irrational reasons, like audiophiles being obsessed with signal chain purity as things progress to digital. I actually discussed this a bit in my review of the Buchart A10 speakers. Link in the video description. Check it out, it's a funny review. The DP70 is a highly practical tool with multiple uses. It adjusts frequency response in 12 bands individually for the left and the right channels, perfect for room correction or personal preference. It can be used to smooth out room issues or compensate for tape recording. This high-spec model here features very low distortion and even a built-in dynamics processor and expander, which can be integrated through the Tape I/O. It will be interesting to hear how much this device in the chain actually affects the sound, as it was a big worry for audiophiles at the time. Next, let's move on to the sources in the system, starting with the lovely DRM33HX cassette deck here. The compact cassette was originally introduced in 1964 as a dictation tape format by Philips. The cassette tape tormented audiophiles for decades with its inconsistent audio quality and many potential points of failure. This cassette deck was released in 1985, represented the peak of the format's refinement as a high-spec premium deck just before being challenged by the new digital formats. It featured advanced technologies like Dolby HX Pro, adjustable bias, computer-controlled precision mechanisms, separate recording and playback heads, and Dolby B and C noise reduction systems to minimize hiss and maximize fidelity. For today's music lovers, the complexity of operating and maintaining high-end cassette decks contrasts sharply with the simplicity of modern digital playback devices. We'll have lots of fun with it in part 2, where you can also hear how some of the different features work and hear the differences between normal, chrome and metal tape formulations. Denon actually introduced their first digital tape deck, and I'm not sure if it was the only one, to be honest. It was called the DTR 2000 DAT machine in 1987, costing 3 times more than this cassette deck, around the equivalent of 3,600 euros today. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find one in working order, as the mechanism of that machine was really prone to failure. Next up, we turn to FM, a safe haven for the audiophile in the 80s. This TU-800 tuner costing a whopping $1,000, the equivalent of 2,500 euros today. It's definitely one of the top 5 high-end FM tuners of the time. FM radio was a cornerstone for audiophiles, offering one of the highest quality audio sources available, especially when broadcasts were live. It was also one of the primary ways to discover new music, as DJs took it upon themselves to introduce fresh tracks, and music lovers was glued to the radio, recording the latest song to replay on their Walkmans. What a contrast to the totally formatted Groundhog Day stations we have today. You know, to maximize FM's potential and tackle stereo FM reception challenges, high-end tuners like this came with a range of advanced features, including calibration tones for tape deck setup and loads of presets, where you could store your favorite radio stations, 30 in total on this model, as well as a signal meter showing you the signal strength of the stations you pick up. To pick up the few FM stations available in my area, I needed an antenna. This is a DTV/FM style active antenna for indoor use, sent to me by the awesome guys at AV Connection. Thank you, guys!
These guys are awesome and has a huge selection of You find them at ev-connection.com.
Let's dive into this little snacky pack here, the DCD 1700. It was introduced in 1987 and was a top tier that represented a significant leap in the digital audio technology. It played a crucial role in the transition from analog to digital, offering audiophiles a refined sound and innovative features like the ability to change the track sequence with this music calendar here on the display. This might seem like stupidly simple today, but it was a revelation at the time.
It's also got a little programmable memory so that instead of playing the tracks in their right order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, you can select your own sequence in advance so that they play in any order you want. And all the while, the monitor tells you which track you're on and how many minutes and seconds it's been playing.
The player also featured a digital output that could be paired with Denon's DAP range of DAC-equipped preamps, ensuring high-quality sound for the most demanding listeners. Weighing in at almost 18 pounds, the DCD 1700 was only surpassed by its bigger sister, the DCD 3300, which tipped the scales at nearly 40 pounds. In today's dough, the DCD 1700 would be priced around 2,500 euros. Interestingly, it's €1,000 more than the current DCD 1700 NE currently in production from Denon that hit the markets in 2023. That's a fascinating reminder of how far digital technology has come in terms of both performance and affordability. The compact disc CD format, introduced widely in 1983, was developed by Philips and Sony and quickly gained popularity. It brought a new level of sound quality and durability and convenience compared to vinyl records and cassette tapes. By 1991, CDs had outsold other audio formats in the US, signaling the decline of vinyl and cassette dominance. The CD's arrival marked a watershed moment for music lovers, offering the promise of perfect sound, no wear and tear, and instant access to any track. Features that changed the way people interacted with their music collections. Lastly, our model speakers here. It's a pair of DALI 2s designed by none other than Peter Lingdorf, aimed at bringing high-quality hi-fi sound to the masses in the mid-80s. We won't be using these guys for any critical listening today, but if you're curious, check out the experiments video I did here, where I built a €250 sound system. Link in the description below. So there you have it, the stack, the system I will be diving into in the next episodes. But Morten, where the hell is the turntable, I hear somebody say? Yes guys, the Denon turntable is missing. I tried, but where should I put it here? Instead, check out Techmoan's channel for a great video on the Denon DP47F automatic turntable from the era. I link to it in the description. Next time, we'll dig into the details, exploring the components and all their nice features. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and spread the word in relevant forums. Dive into the playlists and check out all the other contents on the channel. I'm the AV consultant, Morten Stjernholm, reminding you to just listen. Click the channel name and go nuts. See you next time.
See, to be a DJ, you gotta do your best. Have your own kind of style, not like the rest. No jumping up and down, spinning with your feet, cause the music that you play has to be on beat. So Marley Marl went down to take a test to see who could cut up music best. They were all lined up and ready to spin. You could see in their faces that they wanted to win. Yes, Marlon took a test to become a DJ. He cut the music when it's something this way. He cut the music with so much class. Them sucker DJs was a bust on the ass. And when the time was up, they just couldn't believe what the man Marley Marl has just achieved. To get the people dancing on the wackiest jam. Cause Marley Marl is one hell of a man. So to those DJs that think you're the greatest, just stop, look and listen, cause you haven't heard the latest.